All right, so this is Andrew Lucas with REI Live in Columbia, and I've got two guests that I won't be able to forget their names because it's Todd and Todd, Todd Lau and Todd Carnes, both of Todd Realty Partners. So we are going streaming live on Facebook right now, recording a podcast as well. So you might see this in multiple different areas, but we are glad you're here with us, and I'm going to let Todd Carnes introduce himself real quick. Go ahead, Todd.
Yeah, my name is Todd Carnes, and one of the partners, founding partners here with Todd Lau, and been here in Lexington for 20 years, married with 3 kids, and looking forward to building a great brokerage here in Lexington.
All right, and Todd Lau, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Also, as Todd Carnes had mentioned, I'm also one of the founding partners of Todd Realty Partners. Also live in the Lexington area. Been in the Midlands for the last 35 plus years. Wife, 2 kids, and just enjoying continuing to be involved in real estate for the last 17, 18 years in some form or fashion.
Yeah. So you guys have been doing this for a little while, and we want to talk a little bit about what it's like building a real estate investing business. You guys have a brokerage, of course, but you service a lot of clients and agents in different aspects of real estate. And Todd Lau, you just mentioned that you've been doing this for 17, 18 years. So this is not your first crisis. This is not your first economic downturn.
Right.
That's really kind of what we want to focus on today, and we'll see where that leads. And guys, if you're listening and you have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. I'm trying to watch the chat box, and Todd is as well. So if you have questions, go ahead and put them in. But Todd, for people that are, maybe this is their first economic crisis while in real estate, or they're like just now starting and trying to start a business, what kind of tips can you tell us about starting today in this crisis? And we'll compare it maybe to the last one.
It's a great question. I had a mentor back in the day that had told me you should never build a business model on a down market. And I think his theory was, every 9, 10, 11 years, you have a downturn. If you set yourself up to succeed only during that period of time, you're going to be failing on the other 8 or 9 years out of that upswing. So I think really sticking to the principles of just being willing to look for, looking for potential deals that come in any way, form, or fashion. It really makes no difference as long as you have the same set of guidelines. It's how you find them that may change a little bit. The number of them, it's always an abundance of deals, but being willing to kind of have your hard, fast rules, don't break on those rules, and following them to a T, there's always deals. I mean, as you well are aware, there's never a shortage of them. It's just making sure you find them and follow your rules.
Right, and that's a really good point, that people that are starting out today might see some success in today's market with something that's unique, a unique strategy. There are people right now that might need to sell or want to sell because of their current situations, which that normal seller you wouldn't get in 2 years or 2 years past, right? So setting up your business to capitalize on today's crisis is not going to help you succeed in 2 years, 4 years, or whatever. That's not going to give you long-term growth or long-term business strategy. So I'll kick that over to Todd Carnes, because he's give us a little bit of your business background and tell us, what are y'all doing today to mitigate and make sure you don't fold during the crisis and continue on after?
Yeah. So we're certainly aware of what's going on and trying to, pivot on that. I did want to follow up on Todd though, and just say about the crisis that new mortgage applications this past week hit pre-COVID levels. And so it was like there was this crazy dip and this crazy rise. It's just like the stock market, and I'm not sure, it matches reality, but the reality is that everybody's back in the game. And for me, just business wise, I got a career in growing organizations. I started off in a church and started in a church of about 100 and grew that organization to over 1,000. And then I pivoted and went back into business and went into an organization here, Southern Med Pediatrics. And again, we started with maybe about 50 employees. And when I exited, we had like 120. And it's not, you just learn a lot of stuff along the way, primarily stuff you did wrong. You look in hindsight and go, man, I wish I would have done that better. But, all the things that everybody knows, kind of the maxims that are out there about getting the right people on the bus and holding to your philosophy, even though it costs you sometimes, and being principled enough to hang on, because there's always temptation to cut a corner and do something that's going to hurt you later on. And all those things, those are universal, those are eternal, but they require some real conviction to hold on to. And the other thing I saw in my latest sojourn in business that was really eye-opening is just, to build something great, you can't fake caring about people. You can't fake wanting people to succeed. And so you got to really believe that. And I don't know that you get fast short-term growth that way, but you get steady long-term growth that way. And I was watching a SEAL on a podcast a couple of nights ago, Joe Rogan podcast, which he brings great guys on there. And they were asking the SEAL leader, after 20 years, what do you think the greatest characteristic of leadership is? And his first thing was humility. He said, so we're all kind of athletically and capacity and those kind of things. We're all similar, but there's a few guys that are always learning from the people they're leading. And then there's other guys who are just intimidated by learning from the people they're leading. And he goes, the humble guys, they're the winners.
Yeah, that makes great sense. And you mentioned something in there about doing some things today that might cause you some short-term success. And what came to mind was, I guess it feels like a long time, guys. I have 3 kids at home, so every day feels like about 18 days. So it's like dog years going. But I don't know, a month, 2 months, maybe. I don't think it was 3 months ago. But people were talking about, investors or just anybody, they were thinking about and talking about, I'm going to skip my mortgage payment this month simply because I can, because they're allowing it, or my car payment, or whatever, payment they had. There was talk about just skipping it just because you could, because the lenders were in such a bind and the government put down these regulations. And that's some of the things that's not building yourself for long-term success. That is putting yourself in a hole that might get you today, but it's going to bite you later. And that strategy is not going to help your business survive in long term. That's just one little example that came to mind when you were talking about that. So, the real estate investing space is now really crowded with a lot of people online, just giving all crazy advice, getting new topics, new tactics. There's wholesaling is huge, and subject to investing, and just sometimes it's not really ethical, and sometimes they're kind of suggesting you just take advantage of other people in bad situations. Todd Lau, I know you have done some creative investing, and your brokerage has done some, I'm sure, but what can you suggest to those people that are hearing the noise and what's actually ethical? And we don't really want to get into too much legal, but what is legal, and is it long-term? I mean, is it a long-term strategy?
Sure, that's a great question. And yeah, this particular market, there's a lot more opportunities to do creative deals. Actually, Todd and I, as being a boutique brokerage, we are a lot of investors ourselves. We're not just on the marketing and sales side. We do know that and do that well, but we also have a lot of experience doing, wholesaling or flipping or what have you. And we just recently, last month, finished a deal that was for all intents and purposes, was a subject to, which for those who don't know, that's where you essentially take on the burden of an existing mortgage, but you go ahead and cloud the title or take title of the property, so that your cash flow is managed a little easier. But to answer your question, this was exactly what we did on this deal we just closed this month, a couple of weeks ago. It was just being very straight up, being very confident in the fact that you're providing a service to someone who is happy with the outcome. And a saying that we always use, I think I learned this in Sandler sales way back in the day, was just managing expectations. It was, if you're going to be wholesaling a person's property and you don't have the means to actually take title and then reconvey it, if you're going to play middleman, that's fine. We've all been there. We've all done that. And sometimes I'll even do that if the needs, if the cash flow needs as well as the logistics make sense to do so. But it's making sure that the person who's the original seller understands the terms of the deal. They understand that you're coming in expecting to wholesale and make a profit, and you're providing a service for them, and making sure they understand that, because that's almost a little bit of an insurance policy to ensure that you don't have any issues, at the final closing. But again, it's being straight up. You don't have to share your playbook necessarily, but you do want to give the parties involved a general understanding of what's happening. Again, maybe the details of how much money you're making, et cetera, that doesn't necessarily need to be shared up front. That's a tactical decision, and you hit on it earlier, but experience going through these motions, it sounds so cliche, but you really just got to go through it. You got to experience it. And Carnes mentioned it earlier with, building and leading businesses and making mistakes, but I'll call them, I don't know if anybody's read the book. If you haven't, the people that are watching or seeing this later, Failing Forward is a great book. If you've never read it, it talks about being able to take lessons learned that maybe don't have the most positive outcome while you learn them, but then applying those, extrapolating those forward. And so, Lord knows I've got lots of experience through a lot of lessons learned. Thankfully, the more lessons we learn, the less we need to relearn them, hopefully. But when you wholesale, when you do any kind of deal with anybody, you have to learn what things you can be a little bit ambiguous on, because they're not necessarily material terms are important. South Carolina, here's your little legal advice. There is a freedom of contract. We can get into bad contracts as both sellers, buyers, the whole 9 yards. And as long as there's no fraud or unconscionability, generally a court will uphold those contracts. A little Bible lesson would be, the Jacob and Esau story, trading your birthright for, something so minuscule, that would be upheld in today's courts, essentially, as long as you didn't prove some kind of duress, somebody's holding a gun to your head while you enter into the contract, or it's just shocks the conscience. And that's a legal term. We call it unconscionable. But otherwise, you can wholesale a piece of property and double the money of what the person who signs the original contract was willing to accept. Those are all free terms. You just gotta set the table and manage your expectations.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, is managing the expectations and being completely upfront and not due diligence, but disclosing kind of what your plan is. And yeah, if you were to do a wholesale or subject to, there's a contract, and you have to build trust with that seller, but you have to be able to explain them up front and not hide stuff. If you feel like you're hiding something, then that's your red flag. Like, no, we need to back up and open up, say, this is what I'm doing. Are you okay with this? And if it's on your contract, that's even better. Have them actually sign the disclosure that says, I'm well aware that this person is going to buy this and sell it quickly, or they're taking over my payments, and I have a risk as a seller that they may not pay it. So being upfront, guys. Some of the things we hear online, some of the gurus, if you will, they kind of gloss over that. And my fear is that people are going to get out there and start doing these deals, and someone's going to come back and say, hey, I was under duress. It was a crisis. It was a pandemic. It was coronavirus, COVID-19, and they took advantage of me. So that's kind of where I kind of want to share with folks to be aware that if you feel like you're not telling the whole truth, then you might want to step back, open up, and at least and maybe get it in writing with your sellers. So just a little tip there. So Todd Carnes, I know you kind of lead the brokerage of Todd Realty Partners. Can you help us just kind of explain what what is a boutique firm, kind of like Todd Laus said, and what are you doing as a brokerage today to help your agents and your clients?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, I kind of do our organizational development, and Todd's our broker in charge. And so we partner in that. And I tell you what we're really trying to do. And we're not like, again, we're trying to build something long-term. I've been here 20 years. Todd's been here all his life, and we're going to be here another 20. And if I could boil it down, we just want to build a brokerage full of entrepreneurs. We want to have room for everybody to be multifaceted in what they pursue. We do that personally. We really enjoy that. We'll flip a property, we'll do investment. I'll do some commercial development, and then we have a lot of the retail side. And so we want that to continue to grow. In my former organizations, we talked about there's two kinds of people. There's hunters and there's farmers. And every organization needs some of both. But when you first start growing your organization, you need a lot of hunters. You need people that are entrepreneurial in nature, that are going to go out there and find it and kill it. And I think what we can bring to the table is as a boutique brokerage, small, nimble, flexible, is we can help you hunt. And Todd Lau will keep you out of trouble when you're out there hunting. Make sure you don't shoot something you're not supposed to, and then allow you to be multifaceted, because the guys I've seen that are really successful, I mean, there's a few people that are successful that are just in one lane. They just do retail or they just do flips. But a lot of people that are successful, they function in all the lanes. And as a brokerage, we're going to function in all the lanes. And we want to give our agents the ability to function in all the lanes. And so right now we're 6 agents. I mean, we want to be 15 or 20. We don't have ambitions of being 50 or 100. And so we want to make room for the next generation of entrepreneurs to come in and figure it out. But we just added Steve Hawley to our team, and he ran a bicycle company and grew it to this amazing size of 100-something employees, and just made an exit there. I think he's still on the board, but like he's coming in. He's going, I want to do commercial real estate. And we're like, great, come on in, man. Like you've got a great track record, and we will help you establish, that next phase of your career in commercial real estate. And he's also doing, business brokeraging, and so he's got kind of 2 lanes he's running in, and those are the people we're looking for.
Awesome. Yeah, I know that now's the time for people that were, when you have a pandemic or a crisis, economic downturn, whatever it is, people really start looking at their books and what am I doing? Why am I involved in this group? Why am I part of this team? Why am I paying for this gym membership I don't go to anymore, right? So those are types of things people are kind of looking at that and making strategic decisions because of necessity, where when the economy's great, we just kind of keep flying. We just keep going. So I'm sure there's people out there that are evaluating themselves as current agents, but also people that are evaluating their life where they are as not agents, or maybe an investor that's not an agent, or just somebody that's in a wholly different avenue, different career, saying, you know what, maybe real estate's for me. So those are the folks that are listening to this, I'm sure, and hopefully we're giving them a little bit of information that they can use. So, and I know I'm one, so I'm actually getting my license right now. We'll see where that goes. So, Todd Lau, I'll kind of kick it back to you and just ask, what are some of the unique things, because you are an attorney and a brokerage and a 18-year veteran of real estate. What are some of the unique things that you guys can offer?
That's a great question, Andrew. I think right out the gate, we are interested in the long term. Discipline is very important in all facets. And so we're going to coach you up in, I don't want to sit there and call you a life coach, but we'll coach you up in your business, in your life, and all the things you can do. And that starts with each of us, Todd and I both, making sure we take care of our own things on our own home front. But more importantly, we do care genuinely about your success if you come join us. And so we're going to be able to work you through other potential issues that you might not see in a normal real estate transaction. I will routinely put my legal hat on. There's people who are too scared to, extrapolate on something that they think is outside their lane. I'm pretty comfortable with giving legal advice as it relates to title issues, to real estate issues, and I routinely do that. And so there are a few agents out there. I think the National Association of Realtors has a little course that you can do where you hold yourself out as a short sale specialist. I've seen some of the stuff they give you. It's okay, but I know humility is something we talk about, but it's just very important. But I will say that I'm very confident in my ability to work through any title issue. I've gotten deeds signed in South Carolina Department of Corrections. I've gotten houses out of bankruptcy, out of probate court, out of, I'll just give you an example. We had an agent of ours who was getting it was actually like a law school exam question. There was a power of attorney. The seller actually passed away after the power of attorney was signed, but prior to the closing. And so, you had the agent on the other end had no idea what they're doing. And I was able to get in and kind of steer it. I didn't give legal advice to this person per se, but I did connect them with the attorney that I recommended, and they chose ultimately, but it was someone to help get the estate opened up, get the power of appointment established so that we could hurry up and close. And I have no doubt in my mind that had we delayed and floundered, we would have lost that deal, or we would have had to go pay for outside counsel to give us that advice. And part of what we do is we want to build for the long term. So I'm not billing my agents for this. I genuinely desire for their success as well. So we definitely can provide getting through title issues much greater than most other brokerages that I'm familiar with. I can only think of one or two others where there's actually a lawyer on staff, so to speak. We also have, as Todd mentioned, we got people who run in the commercial sphere. He and I both are engineers by degree and by training initially. So Todd Carnes is really good with subdivision, with land development, interfacing with governmental agencies. It's just not about putting a sign in the yard and taking really good photographs and using buzzwords. And then, it's not about just selling. It's about the whole, training up the team, putting them on the field and actually winning the game and not just looking good in a uniform. So we really do feel like the people we have can get you there. And we also feel like our core DNA is quality and not quantity. So we're not looking to hire 50 agents. We're also not looking to do 1,000 transactions this year. We're looking to make a lot more on a transaction, have a very smooth experience, and it be very profitable and be very efficient and effective, and not just, the last thing you'll hear me do is brag about the number of transactions we have, because that's not my goal. My goal is not to beat Keller Williams or beat somebody else with transactions. I'd much rather have a sampling size of transactions that looks a lot the same. Involved on my side are a lot happier and enjoy the experience a lot more.
Yeah, Andrew, I can also jump in. I mean, recently we had a client that was working in represent somebody in a new build, and they had a truss issue, and like they set the trusses and on the load bearing point, it was like 2 inches off the side. And our agent, that's not in his wheelhouse. I'm not a structural engineer, but I took enough statics in college to get out there and be able to troubleshoot that and talk with the builder and find a reasonable resolution and know what needed to happen. And so, just quite frankly, just being a little older and having experience in a lot of different realms, not just in real estate, I found is really helpful. And I just think the other distinctive, again, I just go back to like we really want to see people have great success because we're in this for the long haul. And so, yeah, going to Todd's point, like we want to, 10 years from now, we want to be able to point to 20 people that are really successful, and we want to enjoy the heck out of it with them. We want to be successful, want them to be successful, because those are legacy moves later in life. This is like my fifth career. I was an engineer, I was a missionary, I was a church leader, a church planner, a business leader, and I always wanted to really start my own business, and this was my opportunity. And so those are great legacy moves when I think about the next 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, that's awesome. One of you guys said something that really reminded me of, I think it's Tony Robbins that says this, but when the airplane, you get on an airplane and the flight attendant's giving the instructions, and she says, if the oxygen mask comes down, she says, put it on your kids first, right? No, she doesn't. She says, put it on yourself, right? She's like, put the oxygen mask on yourself, save yourself, prepare yourself so that you can help others. I think that is so crucial right now in today's economy, in today's society, is to prepare yourself, do what you need in your business, in your home life, and in your spiritual life, and prepare yourself, have yourself centered, taking care of yourself, whether it's being an entrepreneur, being the hunter or the farmer, or if it's, getting into a business where you can maybe have a little side deal with real estate that builds the wealth. But prepare yourself, create that legacy so that you can help first your family, your kids, your parents, and then your church, your community, whatever it is. I think right now is so important because there's a tendency for us in our culture in crisis is to kind of come inside and be afraid and be afraid of not understand what's happening and not be able to control ourselves and not take care of ourselves properly. Whatever it is, watching Dancing with the Stars all night long and not exercising. Um, it's time for us to take care of ourselves so that we can help others. If we're not creating wealth for our family, then we can't help someone else when they are in need. Churches don't get tithe when people are broke. If I can create wealth and create a business in real estate, then I'm able to give more. So it's such a powerful kind of visual this period in our economy and our lives. So that's all I really have for you guys. Is there anything else you want to share with REI Live Columbia, with the group?
No, I would just close with that same thing about Warren Buffett's always saying, no matter what, I'm going to bet on America.
Yeah.
America's had a huge downturn. There's some craziness in the economy right now, but no matter what, you can always bet on America. I've lived overseas and I've lived here, and we got real issues. Like right now, you can see some of our real issues, but at the same time, the amount of freedom and the amount of equity and justice that there is, you can always bet on this place. And so even in the midst of tragedy, there's plenty of room for optimism. As Todd said, there's plenty of stuff out there for those who want to hunt and go get it. And then I would just say, if you want to hunt, you don't know how, come to us, we'll teach you.
Okay. Awesome. All right, well, we'll close with that, guys. I appreciate your time. That was Todd and Todd from Todd Realty Partners, and I'm Andrew with REI Live Columbia. So we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.